Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Yeah, here.
And now I'd ask you to please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor McClure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Introduction of new employees, please.
It is truly a pleasure and an honor to introduce. I was going to have three of them here this morning because we do have three new employees. Aaron Daniels, who is one of our first deputies that we hired and has just completed his field training program and is now in operation. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency in Shasta. His grandfather fell ill, so he has had to be there today. Aaron Pettis, who is our latest and newest recruit. He's been at the academy for 1 year, went to Eureka College of Redwoods, and is right now in his orientation phase in our field training program. And so he is our newest trainee. And the other is we have Terry Ader. Now Terry, Deputy Ader, was a correctional officer for us over a year or so ago. He left to put himself through the police academy. His direction was to come back and work for the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, and he has been hired on. Just graduated in December from that academy. He's been hired on and just started just slightly ahead of Aaron here in the field training program, and so he's been out there for several weeks. And so we'd like to introduce and bring these three deputies on, and it is the direction that we need to go. We still have a few more positions to hire. We have one of our correctional staff, Joe Aguirre, who is going into the academy in July out of our correctional side, and we're putting it through the academy. And so we're moving in the right direction, trying to fill those vacancies that we have and try to get these officers trained. So thank you for this opportunity to introduce our new deputy.
Welcome.
Welcome, Aaron. Got anything to say?
It's good to be here.
Well, it's better to have you.
Thank you very much.
And Dean, Sheriff, I'm going to invite you when the other two are available to please bring them before the board and get them on TV.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Terry was supposed to be here, but he's in court. So his actions already on the road has put him back behind the testimony day in court. So he had to be there today. So thank you.
Well, good. Thanks very much.
Welcome.
Very much.
Congratulations on your new hires. Any other new employees need to be introduced to the supervisors? No? Okay, then how about the report of any actions out of closed session?
Nothing to report.
Okay. At this time, the chair would request any deletions, additions from members to the agenda. Any corrections? Are there any? No? Okay, then we'll go ahead and receive brief reports or announcements relative to the County of Del Norte, our programs and projects, and we're going to start with Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you. Well, directly following our last board meeting, we conducted a special meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, and there was one subject on the agenda. The authority is discussing and will continue to discuss short and long-term goals following recommendations from the R3 consultants. No action was taken at last week's meeting, but progress is being made in reevaluating the role of the authority, and it will take into the future. The subject will continue, of course, at tomorrow's regularly scheduled solid waste meeting. Also last week, I met with Probation Chief Lonnie Raymond with updated AB 109 figures for calendar year 2014-15. The funds allotted them seem to fall well short of fulfilling the needs of solving the releasing of inmates into our community. Chief Raymond and I also discussed the application of community service hours for the Take a Bite Out of Blight program. Also last Thursday, June 26th, I attended the Veterans Monument Committee. Progress is being made on the coastal development permit and working with the city on the point of honor at the S-curve. Fundraising will commence in a short period of time. Friday, June 27th, the Chamber of Commerce met for its monthly meeting, and final plans were arranged for the deck party July 3rd, which was a very successful event, and of course the very successful July 4th parade. Membership update on the new fiscal year shows that there are 333 paid-up members. That's about 2% more than last year at this time. The figures have been released for the deck party, and sales are up about 10% from last year. Also, congratulations to all at the Chamber of Commerce for all their hard work. Along with Supervisor Hemmingson, I attended the Future Facilities meeting to discuss some security improvements requested by the Del Norte County Tax Collector. Some additional research is still being conducted, and I hope to report back to the board the changes that will be made in a short period of time. Wednesday, July 2nd, I was in Eureka for the Area 1 Agency on Aging meeting. Discussed at the meeting is the challenge facing seniors in Del Norte and Humboldt County. On the development is the 5-year plan commencing in 2016 to 2020 on meeting the needs of seniors in housing, healthcare, and transportation for this growing population. Same afternoon, I met to set the agenda for the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, and again, that meeting takes place tomorrow at 3:30 here in the Flynn's Center. The authority will continue to explore long and short-term goals and development of a new mission statement for the Wednesday meeting. Friday, of course, is July 4th. I was very honored to participate in the hugely successful parade. Over the last weekend, the Take a Bite Out of Blight volunteers were picking up spent fireworks debris off the beach at Battery Point along the harbor. The trash cans provided by the city were overflowing, so volunteers at no cost to government picked up the trash, placed them in black bags, neatly placed the bags next to the filled trash cans, and thank you, volunteers, for your selfless efforts to help make the show and make our appearance in the community as positive as possible. And in special meeting yesterday, the board met and interviewed several candidates for the vacant Director of Health and Human Services. Nothing to report on that yet. That's my report.
Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you. We had a special Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting where we accepted some property in for mitigation for the runway safety area project. I celebrated my 41st wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We had, as Supervisor Gitlin said, we did have a future facilities meeting discussing upgrades to the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office. Still working on that. Had a meeting with staff on RS 2477 roads. Had a couple of people there from some user groups, and I would like staff to work on round 2 of the RS 2477 stuff, if we can do that. I don't see any road staff here, I mean any CDD staff, but if we could get them to work on that if there's no objection. We then had our regular meeting of the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority. Still working on mitigation issues with the RSA project. Went to the 4th of July parade and participated in activities on the beachfront, very close to the beer booth. And as Supervisor Gitlin said, we had a special closed session meeting to interview for the Department of Health and Human Services position. And that was it for me.
Supervisor McClure.
Yes, thank you. I had a fairly light 2 weeks because I was down in San Diego with an ill relative. But coming back, the Senior Center, we had our regular meeting, our regular scheduled meeting. We are moving forward with our court case that will probably is scheduled to take part at the end of this month in relationship to loss of funds that we had experienced. I participated in the July 4th parade and walked the parade and saw thousands of people, which is just amazing to me that we have such a grand 4th of July here compared to other communities. It's refreshing. I also made a bunch of pies for the Pie Social, and then was able to visit with family that had come far and wide to be here, and have been preparing for my Coastal Commission meeting, which I leave for this afternoon. And on that, there is for the North Coast, for Del Norte County, we have the Crescent City's application for their shoreline Park, which is being recommended for approval with some conditions. And there was also an appeal against a property owned by John Pappas that looks as if it's going to be postponed, and hopefully staff and the landowner and the county can come together and take care of some business of loose ends as far as it being a storage lot for debris. And I think that's about it.
Supervisor Sullivan.
Yeah, I had a light schedule also. Was out of town for 4 days for a company meeting. But after the last board meeting, attended the special meeting of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority. And then also on board activity, attended the special session we had yesterday for interviews for the new Director of Social Services, Health and Human Services. More to come on that. Attended the deck party, very well attended. We had really good weather again. It's amazing because in Del Norte County, you know, it's hit or miss. Sometimes it'll rain on you. It's like, yeah, you don't know what kind of weather you're going to hit. So anyway, great weather, great turnout for the deck party. Also the parade, once again, hour and a half, 2 hour parade in small town USA. And also the fireworks, you got to see them. So we didn't get the green and the red clouds, which sometimes happens. So I want to congratulate Chamber of Commerce. They did a great job planning the event, and everything went very smoothly. I ended up hosting an open house at my office during the parade, so I didn't get to see the whole thing, but it went on a long time. And then lastly, attended the Bob Rice golf tournament, which is a fundraiser this weekend, and Debbie Rice and Chris Rice did a great job planning that. That was well attended, and once again, phenomenal weather. For those folks that didn't go out to Hayuchi over the weekend, it was upper 80s versus Crest City was not. So anyway, great weekend though.
Thank you.
I do have one thing to add, and that is kudos to the road department, community development, and Tidewater, because Pebble Beach is looking real good, and those bike paths are being used, and people are going both ways, and I see families that aren't worried that their children are going to be crushed by a car. So they did a remarkable job.
Good. I also had some of the similar meetings that you've already heard about, so I won't expound too much. The Airport JPA, the special meeting to accept some additional land. I had a meeting with the State Association of Supervisors and also the Rural Council of Rural Counties, trying to develop a strategy to take to the governor for what his budget will look like in January. Assuming that he wins re-election, his first budget will set the tone for the next 4 years. And we wanted to find out, okay, how are you going to deal with rural counties? So some of those issues that have been neglected or have not won support, like the Williamson Act subvention, the fairs, things like that. How do we tell the story? How do we reframe the discussion? Much like with fairs, it could be economic development in lieu of the redevelopment agencies. So we're developing strategies there, talking with the governor's staff in preparation of talking with him on how he can, frame what does he want rural California to look like over the next couple of years, making great inroads there. Attended a Birch Neighborhood Watch meeting that was held at the Pizza King. Sergeant Griffin from the Sheriff's Department attended, and I spoke with Dean just a little bit ago. Did an excellent job. Really represents that department very well. He's overworked, but he does an excellent job. Attended, obviously, agenda review, had the other airport JPA meeting, attended the deck party like most of the town and half the county, I guess, and then rode in the parade. Continuing the tradition that I think Supervisor Hemmingson did last year, the chair of the board and the mayor of the city riding together, showing a little solidarity. So that was very nice with Ricali, and also participated in the interviews for the Department of Health and Social Services. And with that, CAO, you want to give us a brief report of what's going on?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, we've had some contract negotiations, some employee negotiations. We've continued the budget review and had some meetings. Have been watching to see what type of revenue projections are turning into reality, and there have been a few that have risen, which will assist at the year end. reviewed the grand jury report, also sat in on the interviews for the Health and Human Services Director. Went to the Future Facilities meeting. I too attended the 4th of July parade, and there were more people than I think I've ever seen. And used up my hospitality, or Supervisor Sullivan's hospitality, and spent some time in his office and outside. And in general terms, enjoyed the 3-day weekend.
Very good. So at this time, let's take the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the items that are on the consent agenda. Public comment on any item that's on the consent agenda. Mr. Miles, good to see you again.
Might have second thoughts today on that.
Well, I'll tell you what, to get you on the straight and narrow, why don't you just adjust that? There you go. 3 minutes.
I hope this doesn't sound like I'm throwing Mary Wilson under the bus, but last night at our task force meeting, we tried to have elections. We're going to try to do that at our next meeting. But some of us pointed out that currently Mary is the co-chair. Well, I believe personally that Mary should be a member of the task force. There was some discussion that there may be a conflict of interest by Mary being on the board, having that position as co-chair, because there could be a vote that would conflict with her role as a member of the Solid Waste Authority. I don't know how to solve this. I have an idea. Under the resource code, we have what is known as the bylaws. I haven't talked with Jay today about them. I would hope the county would set some bylaws for the task force with legal counsel from your legal staff that Mary could continue on the task force, but when they were, Ted agreed with this argument we had last night, that there would be somehow that if these tricky issues came up and that it was perceived that Mary would have a conflict of interest, that we would have some kind of out.
Thank you, Richard. Any other public comment on items that are on the consent agenda only? Okay, back to the board. Comments, questions?
Sorry, I believe she resigned as co-chair of Solid Waste Task Force. I could be incorrect, but yeah, okay. I'll check it out. Okay.
Any other comments? Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes, minus number 9, I have a conflict of interest on that.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes, I need to recuse myself on item number 13.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor McClure? Yes. Chair Finnegan?
For item number 13 to pass, would it take 4/5?
Right.
Okay.
Regular vote.
Then I'm going to abstain because of the appearance of a possible appearance of a
Sure.
potential conflict on 13.
Got it.
Otherwise, yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Passes. Number 18 is to approve, authorize, and adopt a statement of votes cast at the June 3rd statewide primary election. Is the elections officer here?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, Elise.
Hello, I'm Elisa Northrup, Delaware County Clerk Recorder, Registrar of Voters, and a resident of Delaware County. And I'm bringing to you today the statement of votes cast from the June 3rd, 2014 primary election. I'm asking that you adopt this and that a copy be lodged in the office of the county clerk.
Questions? Can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and authorize the adopted statement of votes. Cast. All those in favor?
Aye.
Objections? Abstentions? Thank you very much. Motion passes.
Thanks, Ellie.
Deputy, before you leave, I have a feeling you're one of the new deputies. Why don't you come on up here? Your sheriff was here a little earlier, said that you were busy, but I want to give you the opportunity to identify yourself as a new employee, and we'd like to welcome you.
Yes, Terry Ader, started about 3 weeks ago, graduated the police academy on the 12th, started to work on the 20th, and I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic.
Great.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Congratulations
Glad I'm
and
in the
welcome.
right spot.
You are.
Thank you.
It's better than court, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Except when you're sitting up here. Judge might disagree with that, too. All right, I'm trying to wait for the Cal Nickel thing until after public comment to make sure that as many of the public wanted to show up here as possible. So let's take item number 20, authorizing the chair to sign a letter to the county auditor requesting a fiscal impact statement on Measure F on the November ballot, as requested by the fair manager.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Public comment on this? No? Back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Usually, these short agendas are the ones that really jump up and bite you.
We're not done yet.
But I think in about 30 seconds, we're going to be able to take public comment. So at this time, we're going to recognize any member of the public that wishes to address the board on any matter that is under the jurisdiction of the board. Please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And
We're going to take, just for clarification, we're going to take 19 as a separate thing after this.
Absolutely.
So if they're going to, if you're here to talk on the red flat nickel corporate plan on that.
Correct.
I'd wait until the 19th.
correct, it'll be the last item, which will be next. So any public comment on anything that is not on the agenda? All right, then it looks like, is anybody stirring up there? No. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take the last item in front of us today, which is item number 19, which is to discuss and take possible action regarding the Red Flat Nickel Corporation plan to drill core samples in the North Fork of the Smith River in Oregon. And I think Supervisor McClure, I'm going to let you speak first on this.
Thank you. Yes, I requested that this be on the agenda by the mere fact that when it came before us before, we didn't have much information. And then the sneaky little deadline dates come up on you, and we still didn't have much information. And but I felt that we should weigh in, since it is the Smith River and it is our water, and it, even though it's across the border in Oregon. Doing that research, I went to the Forest Service site of where the proposal for the mining or the drill samples is happening. And I found the site to be woefully insufficient. For instance, when they talked, there was a list of different things that you could tag that would give you information. Like there was an information about downriver water, but when you pressed for the downriver water analysis, all you had was a really beautiful photograph. And that happened throughout the entire documentation that's on the webpage. But there was the proposal that the company has actually put forward. It was about a 27, 28-page proposal that talked about what they were going to do. And for me, there were some levels of concern that I feel haven't been addressed at this point, and would ask that hopefully the board will agree that this is a bit premature to actually be doing the drilling. The actual environmental reports I was unable to locate on the site. I also was alarmed when I read that they were going to use about 3,000 gallons of water a day during the drilling of the 53 holes, and that they estimated that there would be 100,000 gallons of water taken out of a creek or a tributary to Taylor Creek, but they refer to it as an unnamed water source. And I find that that's pretty troubling, especially because Bald-Face Creek is such a significant creek in the watershed because it's really cold. It has some seeps that come into that, and that's part of the reason that a lot of us don't get in the river until August, because it's so cold. But that's because the water that's coming from Bald-Face Creek is critical for the habitat of the fishery in the system. And so to have an unnamed source and to have it not clear where the water was going, and then the second alarm that I saw was that once the drilling happened, when they were drilling, the holes aren't very big, and they're not going very deep. I think they're only going about 50 feet deep. But that 3,000 gallons of water is not brought back and tested and made sure that there's no contaminants in it. And I'm not a drill person, but I don't know what happens when you drill a hole and you loosen possibly, for instance, nickel into the system. Would it dump into the water system? So for me, that was a pretty big alarm, and then further reading of the 53 wells that they're going to have, the 53 drill holes that they're going to do, they have to move a helicopter pad, and they move the helicopter pad throughout the area, and they're clearing brush to put down the helicopter pad, and that was really vague as far as what they were doing, because I know that up in that part of the world there's quite a bit of Darlingtonian seeps that happen, and so there wasn't really a lot of discussion in their proposal of that analysis of how that was going to happen. And then the big bladders of water that they're going to pull out of the creek, those bladders get moved from hole to hole also. And so there's a lot of movement of it's not really equipment, but of stuff that's essential for drilling. And there was really no analysis of what that environmental impact could be in relationship to debris getting into the creek or into the area. And so for me, I just think that this exploration for drilling, for the possibilities of what's happening, I know there's a lot of other political stuff that's happening around this part of the world in relationship to should it be wilderness, should it not be wilderness. But I put all of that aside and only focused on their application. And in their application, when they do the drilling, they do add two substances to the water. One is called BioCut Plus, and the other was DD 2000. Both of those, when you research what they are listed as biodegradable, and that there wasn't a lot of environmental impact on this substance because it replaced using diesel, I think, or using fossil fuels to do the drilling. But I stopped there because I had already had enough questions that when I found myself starting to write down the contents of these two chemicals, I went, wait a minute, I already have enough questions to say I don't believe that this has been fully vetted. And that as a board, I would hope that we would go to the extreme, because we don't really have all the information, but go to the extreme to understand the significance of protecting the Smith River watershed. And so I am urging the board to send a letter, which has to be pinned by 5 o'clock today and in on email and fax with a hard copy to follow, but to be able to be part of this comment period that says, as a community, our watershed is our priority because that's our livelihood. The fish that come into the Smith, the water that we drink, the quality of life that we live, that is, so I'm hoping that my fellow supervisors will be in support of sending a letter saying that this is not fully vetted and should not be approved at this point.
Okay. Any other supervisors want to weigh in at this time? Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes, I have some ambivalent feelings about this issue. I don't know if many of you know exactly what nickel is. It's a hard, silvery white metal which has properties that make it desirable to make alloys, and like iron and copper, chromium, and zinc. Most nickel is used to make stainless steel, in fact. Other functions of nickel include making of batteries and, of course, jewelry. So the negative side of this is we don't have enough information on it, and those people who have an aversion or allergic situation, and incidentally, women are more susceptible to nickel problems because they believe it's jewelry oriented. But fully 10 to 20% of the population is allergic sensitive to nickel. So it forms a skin rash, asthma attacks, very rare in asthma attacks, but I think there has to be some more information, and the most important component is that nickel is fairly common. 6% of the Earth's core is made of nickel, and it's pretty much everywhere, especially around volcano areas. I just don't think it needs to be in and around the Smith River, so I would concur with my colleagues on this.
Any other supervisor wishes this time?
Yeah, if I could.
Sure.
I have some concerns both ways. I don't really like stopping a project before we know. Supervisor McClure seems to have a lot of information. I went to the presentation that was put on by Smith River Alliance. There was very little information on what they were actually doing as far as this core drilling. I didn't see much of an impact with the core drilling. Most of their information was on strip mining, which I'm totally against strip mining. I don't want to see the Smith River watershed impacted by any of the mining activities. But on the other hand, this is the same information that we got the last time this came up, which is nothing. I have nothing in my packet on what they're doing, what the application says. It's very difficult for me to react to something that I have no information on. I hear a lot of things from the community. We don't want strip mining. We don't want any impacts to the Smith River, and I agree with all of that. But the underlying comments that were made or actually not underlying, they were actually made at the presentation was that they want to try to get a 20-year mineral rights withdrawal in this area. They don't want any minerals taken from that area. This seems to be the direction that they were going, which could impact very small little recreational mining, panning gold, that type of thing, and I would really hate to see that go away. So I don't know if these things are going to interact, or if this is a prerequisite. If we're against this, then they're going to go to the next step. So I have some concerns. I have concerns both ways. But I don't like having something on the agenda where I have no packet information on something this important.
You want to weigh in yet?
Well, I'm going to take a position opposing the Red Nickel Corporation plan. I don't think, if their ultimate plan is to do strip mining, then I'd say we just nip it in the bud right now. I don't think it's appropriate. You got way too many people that depend on this watershed just for drinking water. The entire city system, as well as in Aiuchi, the water systems, and a lot of the, not just Big Rock, but other water districts up there depend on the Smith for their drinking water. So if the intent behind the drill, and I agree with Supervisor Hemmingson, I still think gold panning and some of the minor dredging isn't a negative thing for the Smith, but I do think this has some pretty negative implications. If this is just the first step to do some massive strip mining, then I'm adamantly opposed to it. So I think we ought to draft a letter and kind of take the the example the city said already and said a pretty strong letter saying we're opposed to this, and there has not been enough public input into the process, and they haven't done enough due diligence on it, quite frankly, and to say, well, we just want to do a little bit, but then it's going to, it's going to balloon into a huge thing. So that would be my position on it, is that as we as a board take opposition to it. So.
Okay,
If I could just say,
go ahead.
if I could just say one more thing. The other thing, that I have kind of an issue with is, we're not the permitting agency, so we don't have privy to the information that would be coming through on a permit. So all the information may not be out there that has to be, directed to that permitting agency. And I think they're the ones that really need to make the decision. And I'm behind that, 100% on what they do. And maybe that's where the letter should be directed, is to that permitting agency. I assume that's where we're sending it, but to that permitting agency on making sure that they do their due diligence and when they go through that process.
I think that's who, isn't that was the intention, said the Water Resources Department in Oregon? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I too would rather err on the side of caution. I hate putting things on the agenda that don't have the documentation that you can have an intelligent or an informed discussion. You've heard that from me before. This first came to this board at the end of January, and it was brought to us by the Smith River Advisory Council. They submitted a letter in opposition and asked us to do the same, and then admitted that there was no supporting documentation. So we asked them to develop that information and bring it back to us. There were some things on the internet that I saw that I thought there was a public comment period, and maybe it's for Oregon, that was going to expire in September or August or November, October. And then come to find out through Supervisor McClure that no, it's 5 o'clock today. I think that's what prompted the city to take action, and rightfully so, because they have, 14,000 people in this county get their water from the Smith River through the Rainy Collector. 2/3 of those users actually are represented by the Board of Supervisors through either the Birch Ocean View or other places, not within the city limits. So we obviously have a stake in it. I don't want to see mining per se, gold mining inhibited either, but what we're talking about here is a heavy metal, nickel. Introducing it into our water system, introducing it into our food chain, whether it's fish or fowl, is also a severe problem. So while there may not be as much information that has come forward as we would like to see, and this brings up the issue of, well, part of that reason is because it's not under our purview, perhaps. It is the state of Oregon. It is in a different county. People have said, well, why doesn't CEQA apply? Well, because that's the California Environmental Quality Act, and you can't impose our rules on another state unless they willingly do so. What we can do is follow it through the NEPA process, but there's an opportunity there to have it exempted. So it is very appropriate that we weigh in in opposition to this. And before I entertain a motion, I'm going to ask the public, for any comment and perhaps direction that you'd like to see this board take. So members of the public, Richard, I guess you're first. And try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and since you're first, you won't be repeating anybody, but...
Okay. Today, I feel like a digger. If you know anything about Old English history, the diggers had the right to the commons. Well, our common is the Smith River. Our fishermen, our ocean fishermen, make a living off the coho salmon and the other salmon. Our guides who work on the Smith make a living. We attract tourism because of the only wild river in California, the Smith. But in the corporate world, nickel is important because China is buying all the nickel in Africa to make cell phones. The only reason this corporation wants to explore for this metal nickel is for cell phones, for the little batteries that are in them. Well, guess what? Coal salmon aren't protected by our Constitution. Neither are our forests. But we, the people, have something that we can do about it. Not too long ago in the San Francisco Chronicle, the gentleman who's the co-chair of California Trout, the executive director, pointed something out in an editorial. There's something called the Clean Water Act. I think we should be sending a copy of this letter to our congressmen and our senators, because the Forest Service falls under the Department of Interior.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I do something a little unconventional? Can we just get a hand count of anyone that doesn't want us to send a letter opposing this? Okay, so
Public comment. Next, please.
Good morning, Supervisors. Thank you very much for taking this matter up, and it was actually very helpful for me to hear each one of you speak about it and Dave querying the room. It's like we're all on the same page about this, and I think that really is appropriate in terms of what comments we share. Just a little bit of background and kind of linking to different things that Jerry and David and Martha and Mike and Roger said. The earlier comment period, same corporation owns a claim block just east of Gold Beach. And that comment period, which the Curry County Board of Commissioners very strongly wrote in opposition to the proposal, that was for that claim block. But it's the same foreign venture capital firm that has that claim block, that has the claim block in the headwaters of the North Fork. So that was the earlier comment period that Dave referred to. And that, I think, was also the catalyst for the Smith River Advisory Council to write. Same corporation, different claim block. And I admit with all of you that there's been little to comment on. But I think that, and I agree with Richard's comments about copying our elected representatives, because it's been brought to their attention, they had the same kind of concern, and the fact that you copy them on what you do have an opportunity to comment on by this Oregon Water Resources Department, I think is totally appropriate. I think they're looking to say, hey, how do you folks feel? So I think that's right on. Just two other pieces of background. One, about a year ago, when again, information first started appearing a little bit, the Forest Service started this website that you referred to. There is a plan of operations on there. They do explicitly state in the plan of operations that the test drilling is not actually the first step, but it's a step in the process of the strip mine, so you're right on about that. But a national group called American Rivers started a petition, and one of our county residents in Gasky started circulating that petition. They got 84 pages filled out, and I think several hundred of those signatures were Delaware County, and I just wanted to give a CD of that, of all the signatures.
Yeah, clerk will take that.
Another thing, just to reiterate a point that many of you touched on already, the Forest Service, due to the 1872 mining law, is really, when an applicant has the claims, they are obligated to treat that as almost the highest use of the land. Because in 1872, it was a different world. And so I think your concerns are very well founded in terms of, not necessarily wanting to be totally reliant on the Forest Service. And indeed, there has not been any environmental analysis on the test drilling or the larger project. And I just got the signal, so I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, Eileen Cooper. I want to thank you tremendously for taking this project up. And each one of you had very well-founded concerns. Nickel is very plentiful in the world at higher concentrations than have ever been found in this area. Yes, this is just an incremental step, and the purpose of the project is for strip mining. Make no mistake about this. And it's to turn the whole area north of us into a huge mining district. And I am very concerned for all of our interests in economics, of fisheries, of recreation, that we have invested in, our wild rivers coast that we stand for, our clean water. All of these interests that are so vital to this community are threatened by this. And make no mistake about it, the 1872 Mining Act enslaves the Forest Service, and we need to do everything we can to work with our representatives, our congressmen, our senators, in combination with those in Oregon, to do something so that this beautiful river of ours is never threatened again by this kind of strip mining. I urge you to be strong, and the environmental review process will be very skewed against us, and I'm sorry that this is going to be a very big struggle for this community, and I appreciate all you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Henry, and I live in the county. And I really hope the board will take a very strong stand against this project. I know it's early, but why do any drilling of wells if you're against strip mining? You know, they know there may be some nickel there. It's not to find that, but it's to proceed, and this is the second step. And it'll be very hard to stop this as it goes on. Also, at that presentation where Supervisor Gitlin was, I think it was commented that out of all of that mining, what they would get is about 1% nickel. And can you imagine the tailings, the things that would be left there, that would be of no use and would be contaminated and toxic? I think you only have to go to the internet and look at Riddle, Oregon, and look at the reclamation process there, which is non-existent. Look at Google Earth and look down at what they have done in that area. It is absolutely abhorrent. And I don't think we want any portion of Oregon to look that way, as we would want them to support California not looking that way, especially Northern California. You know, it appears the Forest Service is just overwhelmed because they had this previous application and some environmental work was done on that. And instead of waiting and saying clearly we don't have enough information, they're proceeding with letting this company get the water permit. And I think that's really wrong. I think they need to do a full environmental assessment before they allow anything to happen on that land. And you know, it's a very special area. In 1993, the Forest Service even recommended that this area have special protections. In 2004, the Bush administration agreed with that, and they proposed a plan to protect this area. And it's no surprise, Congress did not act, but there was a very strong movement to protect this area. Now there's no protection, and as was said by Grant, because of the Mining Act, the Forest Service is forced to take these steps. So I think there's no reason to wait, because you know what's going to happen. This is an investment company. They've been working on this project since well before 2008, I think. I found one of their reports. You know, they're looking for profits. They're not looking at what it might do to this area. So please take a very strong stand. If you need more information, I have a really good letter from Earthworks, and it outlines all the problems with the previous plan and with this plan, and you could follow the points.
If you want to leave that letter with the clerk, that'd be
Should I
great.
give it to the clerk?
Yes,
Would you like-
please.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please. Anybody else like to speak on this issue? Okay, then I'm going to...
Oh, you have one?
There we go.
My name's Jack Armstrong. I live in the county, drink city water. I've got family here, kids, grandkids, and they all drink water. I've found it to be essential, and nickel wouldn't help me. And being reticent about it because it might be somebody else's agency or someone else's responsibility, I feel it's all our responsibility to do what we can to preserve our water. And I appreciate your efforts in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Anybody else? Judge?
Yeah, I'm Robert Weir, and I'm a Delaware County resident. I'm also a user of Crescent City water in my home. And I'm also, of course, kayak a lot on that river, and I can tell you that it's pure because I've had it up my nostrils. And I want to voice my opposition to this project. And first, a couple points. One raised by Supervisor McClure about that these chemicals are biodegradable, and as you know, biodegradable means there are byproducts. There are waste products come from what's usually bacterial action, and that gets into that river and affects algae and the other things that affect water purity and water clarity. And a second question was raised, you know, is this the first step? Well, I suppose the only possibility that it's not would be if they say, well, we suddenly discovered there's no nickel here. They're not spending this money because they want to, you know, just engage in some scientific study. They are doing it because they want to get that nickel out of there and make the money. And so the question really is there anything that this Canadian corporation is going to do for Delaware County or for your constituents? Number one, it's not in our jurisdiction. There'll be no tax revenues raised to support local government. Number two, it's far enough away that nobody here could safely commute there in reasonable fashion. There are no Delaware County jobs going to be created by this thing, and there is no upside to Delaware County at all that I can see from this project, and considerable risk. And so I would suggest that we might go farther than simply oppose this water drilling business, and make it known now that this county categorically opposes any steps toward nickel mining on any tributary of the Smith River. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
My name is Janet Gilbert. I live in the county and I have city water. I just want to say, as a property owner, if you play this out, property values are going to plummet. No one's going to want to come here to a toxic river, and our whole economy is going to plummet. I want to say that this is a foreign national company. The money leaves the nation, and we will be left with a Superfund EPA toxic waste, Superfund brown field to clean up, that we've gained nothing, and the American taxpayer has put potentially millions upon millions of dollars into cleaning up the waste. It's just a lose-lose situation for us and really for the United States. Maybe just a few jobs in the Oregon, few people benefit, but the rest of us lose. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm Donna Thompson and live in the county and drink our water from the Smith. Just one point, the things that I've been seeing on the internet about this seem to be emphasizing that the key phrase is to say, this is not in the public interest. So please put that in your letter. Apparently that's going to have an effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close the public comment period then, and on this, and we're going to...
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and
Bring it
make a
back to-
motion that we draft a letter, making sure we hit as many, especially Water Resources Department in Oregon, but specifically our U.S. senators, our congressmen, as well as the Oregon senators and Oregon congressmen, that we drafted that a little more, I've read the Crescent City's letter, and I'd like it to be a little more strongly worded than what came across, is that we're adamantly or categorically opposed to any strip mining in the Smith or tributaries at the Smith.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Can I get a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. And I think that even the city, the letter that was proposed in their agenda came up with a strong, something that was more strongly or stronger than that was. And I like what I heard of Your Honor say about categorically opposed to anything that has to do with strip mining within the tributaries of the Smith River. There was, Donnie, you had some good things to say too, so I would ask that if this does pass, I guess we would direct staff, well, let's direct staff to formulate a letter of strong opposition based on our knowledge and public comments. Is that the direction of that motion?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
One second.
I just wanted to correct some misinformation that Mr. Miles put out there before we vote, because he said that the U.S. Forest Service was under the Department of Interior, and it's not. It's under the Department of Agriculture. But anyway, yes.
It's not often we get to correct
Mr.
Richard.
Miles?
That's the only reason I wanted to, the only reason I wanted to say it.
All those in favor of sending a strong, you done? Okay, all those in favor of sending a letter of strong opposition to this project and any other project that may take place after this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it unanimously passes. I thank the community for coming and weighing in and giving us some support as well as some ideas on this. Who is going to draft this letter, knowing that now it has to be in by 5 o'clock?
Sounds like Jay's going to do it.
Okay, Jay, and then I would also offer any assistance. Okay, very good. Thanks very much. One last item is to consider any miscellaneous legislative budget matters pertinent to the County of Del Norte. Are there any? Not that I'm aware of, other than the normal circus that's going on in Sacramento, so stay tuned. That'll be ending here shortly.
Budget-wise, we're going to continue with the year-end. We may have a short workshop or report at one of the next few meetings, clarifying where we stand, what the overall picture is, and maybe even addressing some of the comments that have been coming from the public regarding staffing shortages, and some misnomers that are in there.
Good. Yeah, it'd be great if you cleared up some of the misconceptions that we continually read about on the newspaper and on Facebook. The only other thing that I have is that obviously the budget is still a work in, legislation is a work in progress. The budget, there was $1 million payback, paying down the wall of debt to the counties and the special districts. There, I think it's about $41,000 coming to the county as an early repayment, acknowledging that a portion, because of the legislation regarding schools gets the lion's share of all this, not of that 41. And then Smith River Fire, I think, got some also.
The report that I received was primarily for just straight for counties and county reimbursement.
Right.
These are for mandated programs, and this says, I think the key words that you had there were repayment. This is money that was not paid by the state over a several-year period that counties would have received during the downtime that they're now paying back.
Pre-2004, I believe. Some of it was even sooner than that. That the state, it was over $1 billion to counties. So, All right, with that, we'll stay tuned. I'm sure you'll keep us informed, and our next meeting's in 2 weeks. We'll see you then. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.